Well, everyone, thank you very much for joining us. Just to recap, what Bill usually does here at the beginning of the meeting is to just restate what our mission is that we are trying to provide students with opportunities to develop creative problem-solving and problem identification techniques through inventing, innovating, and entrepreneurial activities, leading to a greater consideration of STEM careers in high school and college. With particular focus on high school and college these days, as we're adding, as you'll find out on this call today. Here's our agenda today. We're going to be welcoming a few new people to the call and giving some feedback on the Fall Summit. Jen's going to walk us through a lot of stuff that we learned. I guess Bill's not here to do the judging committee update, so I guess one of us will be giving that in his stead. And talking a little bit about affiliate support options, some new things that we've launched for you guys, talk about Logbook, High School Pilot, IP Law Firm sponsorship, and then take your questions from the floor of any other ideas that you guys have. So we'll go ahead and welcome a few new people to the call. We've got one person to introduce to you, which is Leslie Sifone, who's joined us out of 18 years in the nonprofit world. She's worked with YWCA, American Red Cross, the Hospital Association. She's an accountant. So she's going to be helping us with our fundraising and operations with a particular focus on high net worth individual fundraising to help us get money in to help power a lot of things that we want to be working on. Leslie, you there?
Actually, I don't believe she's on the call, Danny, and I'm fearful that she may not have the proper meeting invite. And because we're hosting from my computer, I cannot forward it to her. Would you be so kind as to do that, please, while I take the next section?
I will absolutely do that.
Thank you.
And make sure that I can somehow, I think I can, I'll send this on to her.
Okay.
Okay.
I got this.
So, just sending that off to her now. And eventually, is Veronica on the call?
Veronica's not able to join us. I was expecting Julie Shively.
Okay, some people might be having some problems.
Yeah, I was on a call with Julie's Brenda earlier, and she was planning on being on here.
Okay, well,
we'll come back to this.
We will come back to this and let them tell you a little bit about what they are doing in Ohio to take their Invention Convention program to the next higher level. So this has been under works for a little while, but don't want to take too much of the raise the curtain too much. We'll let them talk about this. So we'll go on and talk about the next topic. So Jen, off to you to talk a little bit about the summit in Dearborn.
Excellent, thank you. So really excited that we had such a great time and a very productive time at the Henry Ford Museum in Dearborn, Michigan. Thrilled to have all of you who were there with us. And those of you who are unable to join us, you were most certainly missed, and we look forward to including you the next go-around. I wanted to share a little bit of the feedback thanks to the folks who participated in the survey. 10 out of the 15 folks rated it most awesome, a game changer, and valuable. So to me, all of those were very positive responses. What folks liked the most was the group discussions, meeting everyone, being in the room full of dreamers and big thinkers, and learning what everyone is doing in their individual areas and sharing different ideas. There's always room for improvement, and especially in your first event. So the things that folks didn't like as much or liked the least, just that there wasn't enough time to really dig into some of our topics. I know I was a bit of a stickler with the clock there and cut some folks off at times. And also very fair feedback was because we were so jam-packed, not a lot of time for kind of, personal reflection in the course of the day. Some thoughts as well about perhaps the summit falling on the weekend and its impact to one's work-life balance, and also a request for breakout sessions. So certainly something to keep in mind. And those of you who know it was a bit chilly in there, but it definitely kept us awake. So something we'll bear in mind for next time as well. So speaking of next time, looking for the continued conversation in collaborative prospecting and proposal development, continuing with updates on programs. There's definitely more time for participants to talk with each other, right? How to be able to help and brainstorm. I know I heard lots of side conversations as we were walking on tours or going to dinner, but I do appreciate the idea of perhaps some meeting time to do meeting work. And I love these two suggestions as well, to include and invite inventors and hear from them about what was their inspiration, as well as perhaps inviting some of our winners for their feedback, perhaps of the competitions, and to also recognize them. So I thought those were two great ideas, and we'll certainly look forward to those. I have done a little research for some possible dates for next year's Fall Summit, perhaps somewhere within that September 9th, 16th, or October 21st, and I will be sending out a doodle poll to get folks' input on which time period we should be targeting, and specifically asking the question, weekday or weekend. One of the things that we also talked about at the Fall Summit was adding some subcommittees to the steering committee or a task force team. So would like to bring these forward to this group. And again, I will be sending out a survey after this call. I would love it if you would consider joining at least one of these teams. The judging team is established, and we'll hear from that group shortly. Also looking to get some input on the at-large participation to go to the National Invention Convention. At-large meaning that is students within the country who would like to participate in nationals and lives in an area where there is not currently an affiliate invention program. We want to give these students an access to participate. So what would happen, of what we know right now, is their entrance to NICE would go through a virtual competition as kind of their first round, and need to kind of flesh out some additional details. So we'd love some input on that. The next group we'd like to build is, I'd really love some help with the NICE communication, right? Understanding what should be communicated to all of you, and most especially to your teachers and families, and kind of when that needs to happen. So you'll notice the notes by January 1st there, just knowing that we have a compressed period of time to get information and organized out to folks. So those will be perhaps some short-term assignments if this is a good time period for you to consider volunteering for them. The next one would be the educational components team, looking at the refinement of curricular resources. Danny will talk in a bit about logbooks, but certainly how to, again, share best practices in that space. And would also look to this team to help us provide the educational content for the Fall Summits as well. And lastly, as we spoke at the summit, the idea of data and research and how important those metrics are. So looking to also have a team to contribute in that program evaluations, that pre and post survey, as well as making sure we are being consistent, compliant with appropriate census reporting. Any quick questions on the committees as I've outlined them?
I think the logbook committee is going to be really, really, really fun.
I think you're right. So with that in mind and no further questions, please look for that survey coming out later this evening. We will move on to the judging committee. Now there are, I believe, at least 4 members of the judging committee on the call today. Could I impose upon one of you, please, to speak up and represent your committee report?
Don't all go first.
Because the alternative is we read the slide, so it would be really great.
You should probably call on someone specifically, or we'll just read the slides. I'll go ahead and do it. What the heck? So there's a meeting next week that Bill says to finalize recommendations on industry-focused category. We looked at there's a suggestion out of Dearborn that we look at the same definitions that were being used in some of the government workforce development programs. So there are apparently 16 categories there. We took a look at those, and it's really, really hard to map those over to what we're doing. Like, for instance, I can't remember, there was one like on, so there's something you just couldn't envision a kid doing an invention for that industry. It just didn't really seem like it would happen. So anyway, that's going to be talked about next week to try to see if there is any way to use any of those. But all the other category ones are good as they are, and we're not trying to shake this up too much. What's going to really kick off next week is beginning the criteria review to define what's an invention. One of the particular areas that we want to make sure you've got a solid idea around is what to do about apps. We're getting more and more apps nationally that our kids are creating. There are also several major coding challenges, like Everyone Can Code, Girls Who Code, Black Girls Who Code, and programs like that we want to tie into. Brenda and I had a great phone call with the person over at Apple who launched the Everyone Can Code initiative, and indeed would love to find a way to where they could tell all the schools taking part in Apple's program that they can apply for the at-large nominations for Best App. And so that'll be kicking off next week. We are trying to wrap up a lot of this judging committee stuff very, very quickly because people need to have that guidance for their own programs because the programs are already started to kick off. So this will be a very front-loaded process. So please, if you're on the judging committee, please show up next week because I think the expectation is going to make a lot of decisions very, very quickly to move that along. Yeah, that assumes that the government hasn't fallen depending on which candidate gets elected. But, you know, and the next week I look forward to being on the call and talking to everybody there. Any questions about the judging committee? Quiet camp today. You guys don't start speaking up. I'm going to start telling some very bad jokes. Okay. Jen? Nick? Nick?
Yep, I'm here. Sorry, I was on mute. So,
fundraising webinar.
Yep. So I think that most of the people on the call right now actually have attended at least one fundraising webinar, but on a weekly basis, we've been holding a roundtable for all directors of programs to come talk about fundraising. We have a bi-weekly model by which 1 week we'll go through content. So this past week we went through how to close a donation once you've got a meeting, how to manage that relationship and cultivate the donor cycle. And then the following week we're going to have a QA session based on the accumulation of questions that were accumulated throughout that webinar. So it's been a really great opportunity for a lot of different programs to come and ask questions and share experiences, learn from other programs, best practices, all that kind of stuff. It is an invite-only event, but obviously all of our affiliates are most welcome. I believe that all affiliates have been invited to the recurring calendar invite, but if you have not, just send me an email and I'll make sure that you're on the invitation. It takes place every Monday from 4 to 5 p.m. and they are recorded.
Eastern Standard Time.
Correct.
Nick, anything interesting that you want to tell about, you know, a couple of phone calls and sort of what you've done on them and sort of some examples of some interesting stuff that came out of it, or
yeah, well,
give people a little bit of a flavor about what it is, you know?
Yeah, sure. So this to go back for a second, the fundraising webinar emerged as a concept because at Dearborn we didn't really have a thorough amount of time to go through fundraising as much and as thoroughly as we ought to have. So we decided, okay, we'll just take the residual information, we'll put it into a one-time webinar. and Sherilyn and I decided that actually it fit better into 2 webinars. And after quite a bit of positive feedback and encouragement, we decided to just make it a weekly occurrence. And the first webinar we did, basically, we randomly just chose a member of the audience, and we went through and went through the process online. It was just a screen share of finding some good companies to reach out to, finding the right contacts to reach out to, and constructing the right messages. And we did that all real time using some of the tools that I've talked about. And it was a real time opportunity to kind of see exactly what it looks like to do what we do in terms of development. And so we try to do as much of those real life examples as possible. It's very driven just by questions from the audience, and we really encourage participation. That's kind of what drives it. So it's just a good opportunity for everyone to sit around and share successes and experiences and all that kind of fun stuff.
Thanks. Awesome. So we've got a lot more other areas we're trying to help the affiliates grow. One area is in graphics and in trying to help you raise your presence. That's a big part of fundraising. So a big shout out to the California Invention Convention, which is getting pretty far along in its launch. It's on September 24th. Well, Brenda, you want to do this slide? You're on the phone. You still there?
Yeah, no, I'm here.
Why don't you brag a little bit there about some of the stuff you guys have been doing?
Well, we did our professional development. We had Jake come out. I think I talked about this on a previous call, but we had 40 teachers, and we are getting going on doing our regional sometime soon. I've been meeting with teachers in the area that were trained, which has been tremendous, both for me, and teachers seem to really feel it's a big help for me to go around. Of course, I'm meeting with teachers that are in somewhat an immediate area. California being a rather big state, we're sort of focusing right now on Silicon Valley and Santa Cruz, where I live. Anne, bless her heart, Anne's our development person here, and she put together the brochure that's on the screen there, and Danny went through it and did a little fine-tuning. But we're about to take that around to places, and the people, we went to a Chamber of Commerce mixer and gave it out, and people were really impressed and happy to have something so succinctly explaining what we're about, and that gave us a lot of contacts that we're following up with now from the Chamber. And we're about to launch our website, which will be up in the next few days before we head over the hill to a Silicon Valley professional, a corporation philanthropy dinner, which is acknowledging as one of its recipients, Brocade, who has been instrumental in helping us get going. So that's where we are in California. And I got our new table runner, which looks very lovely, and I'm sure about to get the next part of that today.
So next slide, Jen. So we've been developing various graphical things for people who need it, logos, banners, and websites. Here's some of the logos that have been created lately. The California website is about to go up. That's a generic sort of template that we can put different pictures in and different videos and everything else, but can be customized for each state. So people that don't have a website, we've sort of got one all set to go. And then it's easy to change and add content. It's a WordPress template. In the middle, you see the banner, the 6-foot banner that's been created for the California Invention Convention for their exhibits at the various fundraising events and other types of demonstration events. So again, if you have interest in getting and upping your graphics and your presentation profile, give us a call and we'll get you on the list in terms of getting some of the stuff put together. Nick has been driving a lot of that as well as Jen in terms of the logistics. I think the Oregon logo looks really good. I really like the way that one turned out. Tennessee looks awesome too. State colors there. So, okay, next slide. So log books. So I'm going to take a little bit of while to talk to you guys about log books. As I mentioned up in Dearborn, I went through and I looked at every single log book last year. And I'll have to tell you that you'd like to try to not just vote lesser for kids that either don't have a log book or have a very poor log book, or at least the log book itself format is very poor. Because some of these log books are rather extensive, and there's a lot of information in them, and the kids just seem to have done a lot more work. And they just simply, in your mind, give a lot more credit for that. And so, we really should try to provide more guidance this year on what should go into a log book. And I wanted to do a very rapid turnaround, like within 2 weeks, type of turnaround to give people more guidance on this. The rationale, we're trying to teach a process here, and we want to reward those mostly who come out, who follow the process really well. And so this effort will be to focus on the paper-based ones. We're not really sure about how to take it electronic yet, but we know that we're going in that direction at some point. And so hopefully what we do here is going to be, will inform paper, but it will also inform electronic as well. Next slide, Jen. So some of the things that I found when I went through and analyzing these, we asked people to send in their sample log books. We got about half a dozen. And I looked at them. They vary in size. Some are short, like 5 pages. Some are 32 pages long. Some are black and white. Some are color. Some are English and Spanish. Some are just in English. Some have grade specific versions. So those like a K through 2, a 3 through 5, a 6 through 8. Other ones are just one size fits all. Some vary as to whether it's optional or required as part of the process. Some will discourage certain types of inventions, like I saw one doesn't allow electrical prototypes. Some require you to get permission, like a veterinarian sign off before you try to staple something to your pet cat. To make sure that pets don't get hurt. Some have coverage of intellectual property and have you do lookups for patents and trademarks. Some don't. Some are more engineering design focused, and some are more invention focused. So it's interesting to see the diversity here, but there's some really big gulfs here. And these are some things that I think we can sort of standardize around, and not so much black and white versus color. That's really up to you, right? But, certainly what types of sign-off, types of inventions we're trying to promote or not promote, what types of treatment about intellectual property. I think these are things that we can standardize around. Next slide. So just to remind people that the basic STEMI model really deals with 4 major processes: the scientific method, the engineering design process, the invention process, and the entrepreneurship process. And you can actually see on this next slide, Jen, the engineering design process, the invention process, one sort of slots into the next, but with a sort of front end and a back end, where the front end is really focused high on ideation and coming up with the concept and structuring the concept, because the kids have to be taught how to find the problem and structure that problem for resolution, whereas in engineering design, the kids are just given the problem. And on the back end, you've got all sorts of intellectual property considerations that you have about trying to protect your invention and trying to look about how do you name this, and are there trademarks and copyrights and things like that. So certainly as we start to stress the invention process as opposed to just the engineering process, we don't want to just focus on the engineering process and leave off the parts that are actually uniquely invention. So we, in coming up with what the recommendation might be for what you should have in a log book, we will be stressing this upfront litigation process and the back-end IP analysis to sort of make sure that we cover off on the full invention process. Any questions about that at all so far? Okay, next slide. So as we go to take this next step, we should think about efficiency and sustainability. Remember, if we're going to be doing 10 kids a year, each extra page we have is 10 million pages of paper. So we should think about what is the appropriate length for a logbook. What are we trying to accomplish here? In looking at the whole upfront ideation process is really weak. One of the ones I'd like to have the kids walk around for a week. In their first week, they try to log all the things that bother them and things that they would love to change, and help them as a starting point for trying to figure out what they might try to solve. I sort of like that. But see you later, Don. Thanks for joining us. Competitive analysis is weak also, and I personally believe, and this is true in with adults, with college students, and with kids, that the area when they go to do their inventions and their entrepreneurship startups, that they're weakest on is really going out there and seeing what's already existing in the marketplace. The best example, or the worst example I have of this, is I was judging a community college competition where they were supposed to present ideas for new products and justify why it would be a good idea. And this one guy got up there and he proposed the concept of Bluetooth, having Bluetooth earmuffs. So your ears could be warm while you're listening to your music at the same time. And I thought it was a great idea, but everybody that knows me knows I walk around with my iPad all the time, and I'm constantly looking things up. So I type in Bluetooth earmuffs into Google, and poof, up pops up several on the market existing Bluetooth earmuffs. And when I asked the guy about this, he goes, "Oh, I didn't know there were any on the marketplace." And it just really shot his whole idea down. I didn't mean to do it, but it's like, boy, he didn't even have the wherewithal to go and type in Bluetooth earmuffs into Google just to see if there's stuff out there. So, I personally believe that competitive analysis is really important because and I would love to engage in a discussion about this, because there will be a body of people on the phone call, could be the majority, the vast majority even, who would say, it doesn't matter if it already exists because the kids are learning the process, and as Jake would say, hey, that product is new to them. I think there's a middle ground here that we ought to at least teach the kids how to go through the process of looking for things out there and understanding what's out there and how they can be different. And some of the log books really do walk the kids through that. A lot of them don't. IP discovery is also very weak. I did not see a lot of areas where there was discussion about trademarks and copyrights and patents. The USPTO education is certainly focused on IP learning. A big part of the invention education should be on IP discovery. So that should, I think, be added to this. Next slide.
Hey, Danny?
Yes.
I think you make some really interesting points about the invention versus engineering and some of those points on the last slide of things that could be included. I think one question to bring up, though, before we get too deep in the logbooks is what kind of happens in the curriculum and in the classroom, and what do the judges actually want to see? Because as you pointed out, not just number of pages, I mean, if these are going to be judged, you need sort of a digestible amount of information.
That's absolutely correct. And that's, was that?
That's Roxanne,
was that
sorry.
Speaking?
No, it's Roxanne.
Roxanne, right. So, so all very good points. And I think the logbook committee should consider that. You're absolutely right. At the end of the day, we've got a judging rubric, and we're working backwards. And right now, the judging rubric around logbooks really asks, well, did the kids treat it as a process? Did they go through and make regular things, or did it look like they did it all the night before? Did they really make an effort to go out and find things? How much did they put into the logbook? And certainly we've got an award for best logbook. And I remember looking at the best logbook last year. It was awesome. I can't remember who won, but it was a really awesome logbook. So you're right. Do judges really want to go through a 32-page logbook? certainly if we're judging 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 of these beforehand, it's a lot to ask. And it tends to be a weak area in our judging process because some people upload photos, some people upload PDFs, people upload Word documents, and it's just very awkward when you actually go to actually look at these. And I'd love to try to find some way to systematically normalize that data so that it's all appearing in the same way and allows judges to go through it more quickly. So, Roxanne, you're absolutely right, and tying it to the curriculum and tying it to what's going on in the classroom is indeed important. I'm less concerned about the 32-page ones as I am more about the 5-page ones, which really just don't really walk the kids through a process and don't really. It's just too high level, and so I maybe there's some good middle ground, and we also have to ask ourselves, and the committee should ask itself, what is our outcome here? Do we want to have a standard national one, or do we want to just sort of say here are the things that should be in one, let everybody create their own? So the outcome itself of what the committee will create isn't necessarily clear yet. All I know is just having gone through here is I think that the kids themselves, if they do everything that the teachers are told to, probably some kids are just disseminating a lot more information and come across as being a lot more organized and deeper in their knowledge of stuff simply by the structure of this, and I'd like to make sure that doesn't happen.
Danny, it's Brenda. I want to say also, to add to what Roxanne is saying, that judging rubric needs to be what every teacher who's teaching the whole process has as part of their information, because working backwards from that is exactly a piece of how that has to happen, and we need to make that clear enough that teachers can teach that to kids. Kids need to be able to understand what rubrics are and be able to look at a rubric and say, oh, therefore, this is part of what I have to do to make this the best of the rubrics.
Agreed. So I wholeheartedly agree. So, so Jen, you should be hearing that Roxanne and Brenda both want to be on the logbook review committee.
No, I actually am volunteering to do that. That's the piece I have a real interest in.
Okay, great. A couple other ways that some things that came out. Some had a statement of originality, which they asked the kids to read and sign, which I thought was sort of nice because it meant that, that someone else didn't do it for them, that their parents didn't do the whole thing for them, but they start to get a little bit of an idea that, even when you go to file a patent, you have to say that this work is your own. So I think bringing that back down to the logbook level makes sense. Some of them had checklists to let kids know what the process is, that they go from step to step, and they can actually check a box, and they can see where they are in the process. I like that. Some had detailed discussion of entrepreneurship, like naming and market research and how to create sample advertisements and what your business card might look like, what your title might be. That we can ask if that's appropriate or not. And is this a training manual or a logbook? Some were just straight out log your stuff here. Some would have a page and a half of, well, here's what's going on in this topic area, some things for you to think about. So it's more like a little bit of a workbook than it is just a logbook. And so something to think about, which should it be? What type of environment are you trying to support? And sustainability. If these are pre-printed or they printed on demand, if you have a 32-page color logbook and you expect someone in an inner city to print that out, is that realistic? They may not have the money to do that much copying. So, are there some of these available to hand out to the underserved populations? I don't know. It's a good topic to discuss. We might print up a bunch of ones that we will ship for free to underserved populations to get someone to sponsor that. So these are just some thoughts that I went through when I looked at the ones that I've gotten. If I got them from, I'll tell you where I got them from. I got them from, let's see, where's my pile? Certainly from Ohio. I almost got them from Idaho. I only got actually something that was similar, but not what I really needed. I got them from Connecticut. Okay, there. I got them from Connecticut. From Georgia, I got your engineering design process stuff with the spreadsheet, but it really wasn't a logbook per se. I mean, I wasn't sure what that was. And let's see what else. I think that was it. And so.
And California is using Connecticut's at the moment.
Right. So I just sort of, since yours was the same thing, I just sort of threw it in that lump. So I would love to get Beth Brubaker's, because I think she's got a lot of interesting stuff in hers. If anybody else has an invention log they want to send my way, love to see that. We'll put it in a Dropbox. We'll share it out with everybody so they can see what they look like, and we can start using that. I would love to get this sort of opened up and then closed up relatively quickly. I think it can be, and actually, if everybody looks at these ahead of time in a structured conversation, we could probably kill it off in one phone call, maybe two. So anyway, that's my plea for volunteers for the committee. And Brenda, I'm glad that you signed up. We got one person signed up. So next slide. On the IP law firm sponsorship, let me tell you a little bit about what's going on here. So last year, we did a pilot trial in Connecticut to sort of see what would happen. We tried a couple other places. And remember our goal was to try to get the IP industry to adopt the Invention Convention as their preferred charity. So there's 40,000 plus IP lawyers in the U.S. The idea that this is the most well-aligned youth charity for them, and therefore we'd love to get them to adopt this in this sort of save the children type of way where they get a named kid, a named invention, and they can track them through the process and that sort of thing. So last year we tried that, and what we learned was, well, law firms are really stingy on their money and they don't really have any corporate social responsibility or marketing budget. They're partnerships, and the partners donate and the firms don't. So they basically say the firm doesn't need to do this because the partners do it. So we'll pay the partners a lot of money and let them do their social stuff, and so the firms don't generally do a lot except possibly donate free patents for competitions or things that allow them to do truly pro bono legal work. But in terms of giving up dollars, they just don't simply have marketing budgets in general. Some do, but most don't. When we talked to the IPLA, the American IP Lawyers Association, and a couple other ones, they said the same thing. They're like, wow, that's $2,500 is a lot of money for a firm to do. And so we went ahead and decided to take a relook at this. We got two law firms last year to sign up for this, and we had like 11 other ones that we tried to get to sign up last year, and we couldn't. So we figured 2 out of 13 was not really a good return rate. So this year we're going to continue to have that high-level law firm sponsorship for those that will do it. We're going to focus more, however, on individual outreach, where you actually are going after a person and saying, we want you to sponsor a child, probably get $99 per individual donation, and try to get them to be able to grow that way. The end goal here is to get them to sponsor the travel expenses for kids to create scholarships that will pay for kids to go to national. And year over year, this is what we want to be. I think we told you on the phone before, is that all the travel expenses ultimately are covered by the IP industry. So we're working on this. We're going to be doing some more pilots. We'll be sending out marketing materials, have a website donations widget that you put on your website. We'll be doing some press releases. We'll try to make some videos. In general, we're going to try to do this again this year and see what happens this year and see what we learn. But again, with the goal of just trying to raise money. Connecticut raised $5,000 of its $10,000 that it needed to raise off of just 2 law firms. So that was pretty good. And so since SEMI sponsored the other $5,000, it effectively paid for everything that it had to pay for. So it works if we can get it working and keep it going. So I'm stubborn about this, and I'm going to make this work. So just letting you guys know this is coming, and we'll be working with you to try to help you engage your local IP associations too. The IPLA, by the way, has a state-level group in every single one. So there's CIPLA in Ohio, there's CIPLA in, I think that's for Cincinnati or Cleveland. There's CIPLA in Connecticut. So there are local AIPLA groups that meet on a regular basis that you can actually go out and pitch to. And if you can hit 40 or 50 lawyers up at once and strong arm them in the ring in the room to give you $100, well, that's $4,000 or $5,000, so that's pretty good. Okay, next slide. Jen, do you want to kick off and tell people about the work we're going to be doing in the high school pilot program?
Sure. So we are in the process this week of kicking off our high school pilot program. One of the things we're hearing, and certainly it's been on our radar, is bridging the gap, right, between our primary K through 8 programs through high school, through the college, and then really to dovetail into workforce development efforts across the country. So that's really where this program is coming in. We're doing our best to start small without being overly exclusive, right? So one of the things we're doing within the pilot is to focus on 3 schools, California, 1 in Ohio, and 1 in Connecticut. We'll be translating some 6 through 8 curricular resources to the high school level, and then we will have the students from these 3 schools participate at NICE via the at-large entry process. So it'll give us a chance to also pilot that as well. If you do have high schools in your area that would like to compete, if they don't already have a mechanism to come up through your state competitions, know that that at-large process is available to them as well. Where we stand up a little bit and really focus on the curricular resources here in year 1, year 2 will really be to focus on bringing this program now into the state level as other groups will pick up this grade range. The other piece is to really look at how we can bridge between other organizations. This is really where we're going to probably see more of the entrepreneurial connections, as we had met with John at the Fall Summit, as well as some of the other groups, Junior Achievement and such. So we see real opportunities there. And looking to also weave into this mentor program as well. So that's really kind of what we're starting to do. I will be taking the lead on this one and working with the teachers in the 3 schools. And I'll be keeping you updated as we go.
Now, Jen, I was talking to Brenda earlier today, and she's actually got this school district down near L.A. that is interested, and they have 3 high schools, and they take part.
Oh, that's great.
So the answer is
Yeah,
yes, right?
I spoke to them about this whole program. They were really excited.
All right. I will circle back with you on that, Brenda. Thanks.
Okay. Any questions about that? So that's our regularly scheduled program for today.
Well, hold on. Before you let people go,
Oh, I'm not.
I am
I'll
happy to report we do have. We have Julie on the phone with us, so let's hear from Julie and the Invention League.
And I have to apologize in advance. I'm not exactly sure what I'm here to announce, other than possibly what the Invention League is. Is this what I'm supposed to be doing here? All right. Well, you know, in Ohio, we operated as Invention Convention for 22 plus years, and most recently, in fact, about August 31st, we started working on a change, and that change brought the entire team that had supported Invention Convention in the past to seek out the opportunity to kind of go outside what Invention Convention has been, develop a new program, which we call Invention League, and where problem solving is our superpower. If you haven't had a chance to look at www.inventionleague.org, I ask you to please do so. It's all about kids using the superpowers that they already have. We kind of want to help them get those powers moving, get them going, and get them inventing. And not just teaching them the invention process, which we've been doing for many, many years very well, but also to go a step further and help them put on that entrepreneurship hat afterwards and look at what the next step is. What do you have to do once you've designed your prototype to take it to market? Kind of cost analysis can you do? What kind of savings can you have if you bought, if you built 1,000 versus one of your items and so forth? And it's something we've been very much looking forward to doing, was adding this new component. And we took the opportunity to do this at the same time as kind of reinvent ourselves. So we are officially the Invention League. If I'm
congratulations, welcome.
And we're allowed to say it now too. I mean, back when we met up in Michigan, we really couldn't talk about anything because we were in the midst of negotiating. So we are the Invention League, and we do provide the Invention Convention program to students all over Ohio. So we actually maintain that original piece as well.
Yeah, so specifically, you guys purchased the Invention Convention program from the OAS in Ohio, and you are now the full owners of Invention Convention. Underneath the end, you have the Invention League brand.
That's correct.
So we're glad.
And we're very excited about it. Yeah,
that all worked out great, and so we're very happy for you guys. And
thank you.
That's if you want to know more, that's a beer and pretzels type of conversation. So you have to get them at the next get together.
Yeah.
So we'd love to hear from you guys. Any questions? Any success stories? Any interesting things that are happening in your regions that are going on? Brenda, you want to tell people? So Thursday night, I'm going out to California to sit down with Brenda and Ann, and Nick is coming along too, and we're going to be at the Silicon Valley Business Journal Charity Awards, and what they're going to do is they're going to laud the top 50 CSR programs in Silicon Valley. And if you're in a major metropolitan area, seeking out any charity awards banquet is a great idea, because we're getting a table there. We actually got a sponsor. Brocade is sponsoring and paying for our table. It's $500, and we're getting be able to be one of 18 nonprofits that are going to be able to have a little expo area for these 50 CSR groups. And we talk about Microsoft and Synopsys and Intel and Adobe, and these are the types of brands that are going to be there. But I imagine if you're in a major area, that they probably have some sort of charity awards there too, to recognize who are the most philanthropic people in your area. And I hadn't thought about trying to track down these awards, and when I looked, sure enough, we've got some stuff in Connecticut that we can tie into. And so just something to think about in terms of trying to have a quicker access to a lot of the right people that will give you sort of a shortcut through a lot of processes that they say, hey, come on, and I'd love to hear more about what you guys are doing.
Great idea. Good luck.
Does anybody else have anything to share? Roxanne, what's going on down in Atlanta?
We're growing and working constantly. Well, I am, at least.
And changing diapers.
Yeah, trying to figure out some new companies to target. I made a budget for how our program needs to operate in the future, which involves more people other than me. So I think that's a pretty good idea. And trying to figure out how to reach that budget. We're looking at potentially charging registration fees for schools, then obviously corporate sponsorships, and potentially for-profit summer camps that would allow students who participated in the Invention process before to come with their idea and really dig deep on some topics. And these would be a fundraising initiative. They would be expensive. They would not be for the underserved kids, but they would help us fund our program and not be 100% corporate.
Roxanne, it's Brenda. Did you happen to get a chance to meet Haley?
I did meet Haley. She's awesome.
Oh, I'm so happy to hear it. She'll help you. I know that she'd get involved with inventions.
Yeah, no, we talked about it. I gave her some ideas of opportunities she should be pursuing as a, serial inventor, and she was definitely interested in participating in some stuff with Inventor Challenge as well.
So good. I'm so glad to hear it.
Yeah, she's great.
Jen?
Yes, Ms. Brenda?
I'm just wondering, is the next meeting, does it have the same number and access code on December 6th?
Yes, it will. Bill Kenny will be sending that invite out. We like to send them out one at a time because this group has been growing, so we always want to make sure we're using our most fresh contact list for that.
Yeah, that's great. I just was wondering if it stays the same. That's all fine. I'll wait for my invite.
Okay, thanks. While I have this moment here, if folks chimed in the middle of the session, could you just let me know if you're on the phone, please? By name?
Brenda.
Julie Shively from Ohio.
Lisa Balaz from Alabama.
Hey, Julie, did you ever hook up with Garrett Braziel at Mortar Cincinnati?
I believe that Veronica has actually reached out, and in fact, we had a conversation about that earlier this week because we're doing an event not too far from there, and we want to see if they'll invite some folks to come to the ESD meeting that we're going to have real close. So I think she's reaching out to them, yeah.
Okay, awesome. So, everyone on the phone, if you know someone in another state that you think would be a great contact, feel free to send it on to the other people. I've been sending individual contacts on to people and making it really works. And so the whole idea of networking to just sort of pass those names around. So in any event, any other ideas that anybody wanted to throw out to discuss?
Hey, Jen, it's Leslie. I just want to let you know I was on the line as well.
Thanks, Leslie. Welcome, Leslie.
Thank you.
Welcome, Leslie.
Thank you. I've been on for a while. I've just been listening.
So,
Okay.
Leslie, I will disclaim, we did introduce you to the group earlier by your notes and your beautiful picture. So we're really glad to have you on our team.
Thank you.
So our next meeting is going to be on December 6th. Same bad time, same bad channel as usual. Bill will be sending out the invite. And if you have any other questions, last call for questions. All right. Well, then we'll go ahead and thank everybody for joining us today, and we will talk to you next month.